So you've heard that Vic Roads is going to compulsory acquire your property, or at least the property that you lease. Perhaps you're a business owner who's taken out a long lease on a property in the hope that you're going to spend many happy and profitable years there building the goodwill in that business. However, all that's been shattered because you've received a notice of intention to acquire, or perhaps you've been to an information night which is talking about the next big road network that's going to go right through your shop. Melbourne's road system is constantly expanding. The city keeps growing and land keeps getting acquired by the government, usually Vic Roads, to cope with what is an ever-expanding need for more and bigger roads. The problem is that this affects everyday business people like you. Landowners have had their land taken from them before. Most are well aware of that, and there is no choice about it. The only negotiation point is how much the landowner will receive by way of compensation. However, we hear so little about the small business owner who has dealt the often devastating blow of being told that he or she must close the business and find brand new premises. Sometimes the business owner will own the building being acquired, which of course Vic Roads will have to purchase at fair market value, but often the affected business owner is merely the tenant, someone who's taken out a lease over the premises, and perhaps with many options on a long-term lease. Is this you? Perhaps you're a person who's bought a business with a long-term lease and paid a significant amount for the goodwill of that business. Maybe that goodwill is connected to the location of the business. For example, if you're a cafe, if you're a hairdresser, or even a grocer, clearly the business will be connected to the location. So the opportunity has been taken away from you the day you were handed the notice of intention to acquire. After the notice of intention to acquire is issued, there will be a period of time, which is often not too long, before the final acquisition will take place. Without a doubt, this can be utterly displacing. It can be devastating. At the very least, it's just a disruption that you did not need. Well, there is some good news. The Land Acquisition and Compensation Act sets up a structure for people in your circumstances to be properly compensated and in full. The good news is that there is more compensation available than what you may think, and in most cases, more than what you initially offered. Let's assume you're a business owner who is also the tenant. You pay your rent every month quite diligently, and your business is doing very well. You pay the bills on time, and hopefully make a bit more than that. In most cases, you will be entitled to the following. Firstly, you'll be entitled to be compensated for all of the hard costs of your relocation. This might include removalist costs, which will include those that you employ to help you pack, the reasonable loss of any perishable items, such as food, which is particularly important if you're in a grocery business, for instance. You'll be entitled to be compensated for the cost of storing the goods in a temporary location while you refit your new premises, bearing in mind that there will be a transition period and it will be difficult. So you need to make appropriate arrangements to minimise the damage to your business. As lawyers, we call this mitigating your loss, and there is an obligation on you to do so. There will be many other costs which might be unique to your type of business as well. These will typically be costs, provided they are reasonably incurred, that the acquiring authority, being Vic Roads in this instance, will likely need to reimburse. And don't be afraid to use professionals either. It's not like you need to do this in the cheapest possible way by getting a few friends to help you out. You're entitled to use professionals, and you're entitled to be compensated as a general rule for the cost of those professionals. The idea is that you protect your business to the extent that you need to. It's not your fault that you've been asked to move. But what will be important is that you keep all of the relevant tax invoices and that you have a very good diary of why you've needed to engage those particular professionals to assist with your move. Next, you'll be entitled to be compensated for the trading loss resulting from your move. Now, there's always going to be downtime in this type of transition. Provided you can show you've acted reasonably, the full amount should be claimable. And thirdly, a little known fact is that as a tenant, you can sometimes be compensated for loss suffered by you for having to pay a higher rental rate for your new premises. Now, once again, there's an obligation on you to act reasonably. You should seek out premises which are comparable. Many businesses will want to seek out premises that are nearby to minimise the disruption. All these are very commendable things. If you are on a lower rent where you are in terms of paying less than market value and you can't find a comparable premises for a comparable rent, you may well be entitled to be compensated for the difference between those two rental amounts. This can mean that you can receive a substantial sum of money up front, being the difference between the two rental figures. Now, putting your claim together can be quite a complex thing. Often expert evidence will be required from people such as valuers and expert accountants. But the good news is that the acquiring authority has a usual obligation at law to reimburse you for these professional fees as well. Furthermore, compensation will typically extend to legal fees being reimbursed in full. Many people simply do not know that compensation is available to cover all of these costs and will often just accept the first offer that comes along. Well, you don't need to do that. You don't need to be the victim in these circumstances. And indeed, the authority, in this case Vic Roads, is not looking for you to be a victim. They want to compensate you. But you need to understand at the same time that they're not your legal representative. They have a job to do. They're building roads. But there is provision in the Act for you to claim all of these expenses. There's provision in the Act for you to be properly represented by lawyers who are experienced in this field. There's provision in the Act for you to appoint valuers and accountants and any other professionals that are required to establish your claim. So all in all, there can be a silver lining to what will usually seem like a very dark cloud at the beginning of this process. I recommend that you get legal advice as early as possible so that your individual situation can be assessed. And every case is different. So you need to properly understand your individual rights. What may be right for one may not be right for another. You need not be the victim. You may be able to achieve many times what the original offer is. I've certainly seen that happen. Done right, many business owners can come out happier and appropriately compensated. And who knows, your new premises may be the best thing that's ever happened. In many cases, it is possible to be happier and in a better position than before. But either way, talk to us first. So all in all, there can be light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. It all seems like a very dark cloud at the start. They have their job to do, and that's why there's provision in the land compensation, and will often just accept the first up offer that. There are formulas by what you've done, and also an explanation. These are items that the acquiring authority, being Vic Roads in this instance, will need to reimburse. Don't be afraid to use professionals to assist you with your move as well, as most, if not all of these costs are recoverable from the authority. Next, you'll be entitled to be compensated for your reasonable trading loss resulting from the move. There will always be some kind of downtime in this type of transition. Provided that you can show that you've acted reasonably, the full amount should be claimable from the authority. You need to plan in advance, which may be items that the acquiring authority will need to reimburse. It is important to keep all of your tax invoices handy and use professional organisations where you can, rather than just people you know, to assist you in your move. Firstly, you're going to get a professional job, and secondly, you can actually claim most, if not all, of these expenses from the acquiring authority, which in this case will be Vic Roads. Next, you'll be entitled to be compensated for trading profit loss resulting from your move. Now, there'll always there's something called it's just an interruption that you didn't need. But in reality, this is happening all over Victoria and all of the time. But the question for you is, what can be done about it? Is there any good news? Well, I'm here to tell you that there is, and that which is often not too long, to find brand new premises for your business prior to the final acquisition taking place. Without a doubt, this blow can be utterly displacing. People get affected all over the state, and particularly at present in relation to the East-West link, but there are also works going on elsewhere all of the time, in regional Victoria and in the Melbourne CBD area. Clearly, your business will be connected to the location. Or a business that is sometimes a business owner landowners. You've received a notice of intention to acquire, or perhaps you've been to an information night that has advised you. You received a notice of intention to acquire, or have been to a night that talks about